gentlemen and ladies of the press, on behalf of the National Executive Committee of the Nigeria Association of Road Transport Owners, I welcome you all to this very important press briefing. This press briefing is necessitated by the increased hardship. For more than a year now, our members are groaning under intense and harsh operating conditions occasioned by acute shortage of working capital for the efficient running of our operations. As you are aware, one of our critical segments, transportation of petroleum products, is carried out under regulated environment. The payment of freight rate is regulated by the downstream midstream regulatory agency based on the overall PMS pricing template. Most often, without due regard to the prevailing economic and market conditions. Worst still, these payments are received by transporters in arrears, usually 3 to 5 months after the products were delivered. In 2020, there was an approval by the defunct Board of Petroleum Product Pricing and Regulatory Agency, PPPRA, to increase the freight rate by 26%, for which the endorsement of the Honorable Minister of State for the Petroleum Resources was needed for implementation. However, the Honorable Minister of State could not endorse the approval due to the obvious implication of its implementation that would result into either outright increase in the pump price of PMS or lead to an increase in the subsidy on the product, neither of which the government was ready to do at that time. This situation generated a lot of tension in the downstream petroleum industry, with strong possibility of industrial action from both NARTO and PTD NUPEM. To douse this tension, the Group Managing Director of NNPC intervened by suggesting two alternatives. One, PPPRA to look into the possibility of accommodating an increase on the existing pricing template by reducing the share of government agencies on the template, such as PPPRA funding, NIMASA charges, and the MPA fees. Two, revert to National Economic Council to inform it of the changes and the financial implication of the decision on the finances of the nation. Based on the presidential approval, the first option was adopted by approving 10% to be implemented immediately, while the balance of 16% was to be implemented based on the second option. To date, this 16% is yet to be implemented. Since then, unfortunately, the economic circumstances in the country have not been better. Our operational costs keep growing up exponentially. I wish to give you the following comparisons to underscore the point that our truck replacement cost and operational costs are now unbearable. Truck head as at 2020 was 20 million. It's now 35 million. Tank fabrication as at 2020, 8 million, now 15 million. Tires, 35,000 per one, now 150,000. Battery, 32,000 per one, now 120,000. Diesel is 250,000 naira per liter. That is 250 naira per liter. Now 420 naira per liter. Foreign exchange is 315 naira per dollar at that time, 2020. It's now 570 naira per liter. It should be noted also that all the above costs involve the use of foreign exchange to acquire which transporters must source by themselves, since they are not beneficiaries of the government official forest allocation. The data presented does not include costs of maintenance such as spare parts, lubricants, gear oil, and other overhead costs. Another serious problem affecting our operations is the condition of the roads, many of which are in precarious condition. Although we commend the federal government for the NNPC tax credit intervention of 621 billion for the repair of 21 roads, They should speed up with the awards of the contracts and exercise extreme care in the supervision, monitoring, and payment so as to ensure value for money in contract execution. This becomes imperative to avoid substandard or poor work execution. In fact, we recommend that a committee comprising of stakeholders should be set up to help in the supervision and monitoring exercise to ensure speedy implementation of the work before the rainy season. Gentlemen and ladies of the press, from these facts I just gave you, it should be clear that the current freight rate payable is not only inadequate but unsustainable for our continued operation. There is no doubt that transporters will find it difficult to operate under this condition. For the records, I should emphasize the positive contribution of trucks to the efficient distribution of petroleum products across the country, despite the occasional problems associated with them. It is a record that over 98% of petroleum products are transported by road today. The pipelines have not been operational for years, while the railways, despite rehabilitation, are yet to commence. The current PMF scarcity is partly caused by lack of funds to run the trucks profitably. Many transporters have decided to park their trucks, and I am sure that many more will park theirs in due course. If something drastic about increasing the freight rate is not promptly done. Consequently, we would like to notify members of the public that while we sympathize with them over the inconveniences that PMS scarcity might be causing them, we are constrained to inform them that if the situation remains unattended, we will have no choice but to park our trucks because we cannot continue to operate.